Hello there and welcome to this Astranti exam advice video. This will be a short but important video for those of you who are sitting your OT exam for the first time and you're thinking, where on earth do I start with all of this? And in fact, just the other day, I received this question from a student on our course forum. Hi, I've just started the course and I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. This is my first objective test. Can you give me any advice? Now, this particular question came from a gateway student who is about to sit their F3 exam. But even a student in this position who has never sat an OT paper before and who is jumping in at F3, one of the hardest papers, will do just fine if they can break down their studies into a basic process. So if you're like this student, you may be concerned about the syllabus, the size of the syllabus, how much to study, what type of material to use in your revision, when to take mock exams, etc. I want you to, just for the moment, forget about all of that. Just let it go. We need to go back a step and understand this basic process for studying. Now, first of all, of course, everyone is different and everyone will have their preferred techniques for revision. Whether that is flashcards, taking notes, whatever it may be. Everyone has their own preference. But what I'm talking about here is a bit different from these particular techniques. I'm talking about the process, and you can think of that as 3 stages of studying. And these 3 stages that we'll look at in a second make up the overall process. So let's take a look at these 3 stages that make up this process for studying. Stage 1 is learn. Stage 2 is solidify, and stage 3 is assess. So let's go through each of these and understand exactly what they mean and how knowing these 3 stages and what to do at these 3 stages is going to help you to prepare for your exams and with your studies. So first of all, we have the learn stage. This may seem fairly obvious, but this means covering the entire syllabus. So whatever exam it is that you're sitting, whether it's F1, E2 or P3, you need to, first of all, get familiar with the syllabus and make sure that your plan for revision gives you enough time to cover all aspects of that syllabus. I would recommend here actually taking a look at the syllabus or the blueprint, which is available from CIMA, in addition to whatever resources you end up purchasing or whatever course you end up sitting on. So be familiar with the syllabus, and you need to understand what will be tested, and that will be covered in the syllabus. And then you'll go on to actually start learning, start your studying, going through the study text or the videos or the classes, whatever it may be. And as you go through those, that's when you are learning, when you're being exposed to information, topics, whatever it may be for the first time. Make sure you're comprehensive in that. That's the first stage. The second stage is to solidify the knowledge that you learned in stage 1. What do we mean by solidify? Well, this is where you are testing yourself a little bit. You're seeing if you can recall key information. At this stage, you should be revising things rather than learning things. And that's how you can test your knowledge. Perhaps you go through some revision notes and you're testing how well you understand something. And if you're looking at the revision notes for a particular chapter, and you're comfortable with everything that is covered, then you have solidified that information. However, if you come up upon a topic that you have supposedly learnt, but when it comes to revision, there's particular things that you can't quite remember. When you test your knowledge on it, then you need to go back and relearn it. And so at the solidify stage, it's all about understanding what you know, so assessing your strengths, what you've learned and picked up and are comfortable with, but also highlighting the weaknesses, areas of the syllabus that you need to revise or need to go back to make sure there are no holes in your understanding. Finally, once you've gone past those first 2 stages, you have the third and final stage where you need to assess the extent to which you have learnt what is on the syllabus. So here we're talking about application, sitting exam style questions and mock exams to see if you've actually retained that information, if you can apply it to exam style scenarios adequately and under exam style situations. So sitting a mock exam to time, that's one of the best ways to assess whether you will perform in the exam. Okay, so those are the 3 stages of the process you'll need to do well in these exams. Now, it's surprising the number of students who don't have this basic information or this basic process outlined to them. And perhaps you yourself have been in that position in the past with any exams you've sat in the past. You spend most of your time learning, but you don't go through the solidify or assessment stages, and therefore you go into the exam slightly unprepared, because if topics come up where you haven't solidified your information, your understanding, or that you haven't tested yourself on, then you could struggle in the exam. So it's really important to include and put time into your schedule to make sure you are doing those solidification and assessment stages. Now, obviously, overall, most of your time will be spent on the learning phase. Depending how quickly you pick it up, that could be 60, 70, 80% of the time spent in preparation for the exam. And obviously, part of solidification may be going back to the learning stage to make sure that that understanding is properly solidified before going on to assessments. And in fact, you may have gone from learn to solidify to assess, and the results of a mock exam may tell you you need to go back to the learning stage for particular areas of the syllabus. So it's not that you can't go back once you've moved on to a particular level. You can always go back to the learn stage to solidify your knowledge. Okay, now hopefully then that gives you a bit of structure to your studying. If you can break it down, obviously, like I say, if you're sitting in an exam like this for the first time, it can be a bit overwhelming. But if you can break your time down into these 3 distinct stages, then perhaps that's a step towards making it a slightly easier challenge to deal with. So for those of you who've just booked your exam and you're sitting your very first OT exam, I advise you to get started at the learn stage, where you're becoming familiar with the syllabus, what's going to be on the syllabus, and how that's going to be examined before going on and starting your studying for those different syllabus areas. Okay, and that's it really. I really just wanted to go through that process for you, for those students, like the student who asked the question at the top, who are feeling a little bit overwhelmed about sitting their first OT exams. So I hope that was useful to you. Thanks for watching, and perhaps I'll see you in another video. So if you found that video useful, we have many more videos like that one on our YouTube channel. So give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want access to more of that content. We are also around in other places on social media. We have an Instagram page. We are available on Twitter, and we have a number of Facebook groups related to which particular level you are at. So if you're an operational student, have a look for our operational group where you'll find useful content there. And of course, you can find us at our website, www.astranti.com, where you can get access to many free materials.